Hello people, and welcome to Crypto Exposed. Okay guys, I just wanted to say congratulations because it is official. XRP, the ETF, officially did go live on the Nasdaq, and got a quick couple of stats for you here, and this is just to give you guys some confidence about XRP's long-term future, and it is looking beautiful. So let's get into it. Okay, so first and foremost, I'll get to this because I think this is just a great thing to see. Widespread corporate adoption. The corporate world is increasingly embracing XRP for its exceptional capabilities in facilitating fast and cheap cross-border transactions. Consequently, corporations seeking exposure to XRP without direct crypto holdings are turning to Canary's ETF as a viable solution. This surge in corporate interest has directly influenced the trading volume record of 2023. Now, I'm assuming that's a typo and should be 2025, of course, because well, that's the year that we're in. So I think that was just a mistype there. But yes, clearly we've got a huge success from this. And another thing that I just wanted to point out. So Solana had the title at the time for the highest record this year, and it was 57 million, I believe. Now, XRP, I believe, did, I think it was around 58.8 million, something like that. But this is just one other thing I want to just make clear to you guys. The hedge fund that released the Solana ETF was actually 30 times bigger than Canary Capital. So Solana had a much better chance. So the fact that XRP beat the Solana ETF, even with a much smaller company, just shows you how real the demand is for XRP. And so, look, I wanted to just have a quick conversation for you guys to show you that, look, when it's all said and done, when we look at XRP, the demand is real. The demand is absolutely there and it's absolutely real. And so I'm not really worrying overall when it comes to all this, this price action right now, because when I look at the price action, I know that this isn't XRP specific. This is just the market acting as a whole. You can see Bitcoin has dropped below the $100,000 mark. The rest of the market's falling. This isn't XRP specific. So what I've always said to you guys is when you look at a crypto, you want to look at the fundamentals. And this is showing you that the demand for XRP is absolutely here. Now, something I want to address, because I've heard people talk about this, and I'm going to address this head on. There are people who are saying, well, XRP is solely just based on hype. Look, I'm going to say this. To a degree, I understand what you're saying. To a degree. So I'm going to give you my full answer here. I'm not saying that's completely accurate, and I'll tell you why it's not completely accurate. But even with the part where I'll say to a degree, I'll show you why it doesn't matter. Okay, let's just go with the argument of saying it's based more on hype. Okay, let's go with that. What's Bitcoin based on? I'll wait. Let's think about it, right? The whole point of Bitcoin when it first came out was supposed to be a peer-to-peer payment network. It failed at that. And so what has it now turned into? A store of value. So what does a store of value mean exactly? Well, a store of value means it doesn't really do anything, right? It's like when you look at gold. Gold doesn't do anything, right? But people just use it and they give it a value. And so with Bitcoin, it is really just based on speculation. It's based on speculation that a lot of people have deemed it to be a valuable asset. And so if that was to go away for whatever reason, that's gone. That's completely gone. So if you want to say that, XRP is just based on hype, well, you could say that about the number one cryptocurrency out there, Bitcoin. And if anything, that applies more to Bitcoin than it does XRP. Why? Well, this is where I'll get to my counter argument about saying it's based on just hype. XRP can actually do things. XRP can be used for cross-border payments. It can be used for DeFi. It can be used for tokenization, etc., etc., etc. Right? There's numerous use cases that we know that XRP can do and facilitate. So XRP actually has a usefulness to it. It actually has a purpose. So I disagree by saying it's mainly based on hype. I understand that there's a lot of hype around XRP. I get that and I acknowledge that. But if that's the case, then we can say there's a whole load of hype around Bitcoin, because Bitcoin literally can't do anything. And that's why it failed as a peer-to-peer network, a peer-to-peer payment network, and it's now just classed as a store of value because it can't do anything. So it's just based on the fact that a lot of people have invested into it and it has a high value now. It has a high price. That's it. That's your lot for Bitcoin. That's its story. Now, don't get me wrong, it obviously opened the door for crypto adoption and cryptos coming in. So again, I always give my props to Bitcoin in that regard. It was the start. But if we're talking about its value and stuff and how, it's deemed in that regard, it's pure hype. So if you're going to say that, you can say that about the number one cryptocurrency out there. So that's just not something I'm willing to acknowledge. And at the end of the day, XRP does many things that Bitcoin can't. So I'd much more say that XRP has, more actual purpose driven behind the people wanting it than I would Bitcoin. But this is to go on to say this as well. Let's just stick with that whole narrative of the hype anyway. It doesn't matter because once again, if you look at Bitcoin, that is still the number one cryptocurrency out there, and it's just built on the fact that it's a store of value. So the thing that I'm saying here, guys, is even if you want to talk about it being based on hype, which it's not. You can actually do things. So at the end of the day, that's completely inaccurate anyway. But even if you want to go down that road, it doesn't matter because what matters is that people want it. That's it. And so this is where, if XRP is getting there based on hype, so what? Now, don't get me wrong. If something was to come along that would point, to a flaw in XRP, then obviously that could change things because that could lead to lack of confidence. But that's not the case. XRP has been around for many years and it's had no issues in that regard. So at the end of the day, even if people are basing it more on hype than the utility, well, it doesn't matter because the hype is there and that means that people want it, right? That's why XRP is as strong as it is, because even though it's not as heavily adopted yet as we would want or expect it to be, the hype and the demand is still there for it. This proves it, right? And so you've got here showing you there's corporate interest in XRP. The demand is here. It's there, absolutely. So this shows you that its future is definitely solidified, in my opinion. That's my opinion. That's just my perspective. But that just shows you, to me, everything I need to know. And at the end of the day, this is the kind of thing that you want to see from a crypto, to set records like this. And we're not just talking of just specific crypto related. It sets the record of 2025, bar none. So that shows you how much there is in terms of demand for XRP. People are getting behind this. Absolutely. They really are. So we can see that the interest and the demand is there 100%. So look, for me, when it's all said and done, I said it before, but the markets can do whatever the markets are going to do. But the interest is here and it's not just going away, right? The interest for XRP is absolutely here. And I'm not normally the one to be competition number one, that kind of thing. That's not really me, but I'm definitely going to embrace that little win there because it's good to see. And the reason why I do kind of take this on as well, because, XRP just gets so widely bashed and criticized. It's unbelievable. You know what I mean? It gets so much hate. I don't know why it's such a hated cryptocurrency. It's crazy how much people hate XRP. And don't get me wrong, I don't mind the tribalism kind of thing because I can get it if people if you like football or, baseball or whatever, you're supporting your team. I can get that. But there's a genuine disdain that some people have for XRP. And that's where it's wow, I don't hate any cryptocurrency because to me, they're all cryptos that can potentially make money, right? And that's why I don't just hold XRP. But I have got a lot of conviction in XRP specifically. But yeah, to me, it's just why be so against one? If it's something that could potentially make you money, that's just my logic to it. But yeah, look, at the end of the day, I just wanted to take this quick win for us all as XRP holders. This is really great to see. And this is, to me, in my opinion, a sign of things to come, and at the end of the day, I just think when it's all said and done, XRP is going to have its place. That's what I really do believe long term. I don't think XRP is going to fail. I just don't see that. Now, it could be that maybe some use cases aren't as popular as others, but that's why you don't just rely on just one use case, right? You go into multiple use cases. So even if one isn't as successful, there's other use cases that can be more successful. And so to me, I'm not going to just be thinking about, just the one type of thing. Here it's specifically saying about cross-border transactions. I'm looking at bigger things than just cross-border transactions. I've been looking at plenty of things that XRP can do as to why I think it's a valuable cryptocurrency. and it's way more than just cross-border payments anyway, you know. But I understand that that's the main thing that it's advertised, that's the main thing that it's put forward as, so I get that's why that's the main thing that they put out in the media. I understand that 100%. But yeah, I just think there's so many more things to just XRP than just cross-border payments that, you know, this great that they bring that up, but, you know, like, there's plenty of other things it can do too. So yeah, I'm going to keep this one short and sweet, guys, but I think it was really great to see this. As I say, when I look at it overall, this just tells me that, you know, XRP is doing great, and it's looking like the value should follow it at some point. And I say that for many cryptos, you know, I really do. Like, I think that the value is going to get there soon. And I think like when we get regulatory clarity, things like that, that's what's going to help. You know, I really do think that's what's going to start to open the floodgates a little bit more, because the more regulations there are, the safer it's going to be for the bigger institutions to come in and start like really adopting these cryptos. And I think that's probably the last hurdle that we're really facing at this point. So I think once we really do get that, yeah, I think at that stage it will be pretty clear to see that that's where we go in, and, you know, the networks that are going to be adopted, I think it's going to be evident at that point, because that's when they'll come through and you'll start to see the winners and losers coming together. And I do think that's when a lot of these networks that you see and the tokens, they'll go, you know, because they're not all going to survive. I do think 95% of cryptos will be gone. I really do think that, like, they're not going to survive the regulations because they're not going to be able to cut it. They've not really got the real types of utility and purposes that other networks have. So then you'll see the ones who have the real longevity. And in my opinion, XRP will be there. And that's what I really believe. And I think it'll be one of the strong contenders of one of the better networks out there. So really great stuff to see here. Congratulations to the XRP holders. We'll take this victory. It's definitely a positive one. And as I say, guys, like, at the end of the day, the market's going to do what it's going to do. We'll see how things, you know, unfold from here. But either way, I'm just not concerned when it's all said and done long term. Yes, it might be frustrating if we do go into a bear market, but to me, it's not the end of crypto. It's not the end of XRP. So in the longer term, I'm comfortable with where we're going. And this is the kind of thing that gives me faith about that. Thank you very much for watching this. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And hit that bell. Take care.